Welcome back, viewers. Again, this is TV Africa Network co-startup. We have with us Dr. Ebenezer. We've been talking about urban agriculture as well as some of the other things that he's into. We chatted briefly about the dual purpose cycling, which we will delve into a little bit more deeply on another segment. But today, in fact, our next segment, we're going to be talking about urban agriculture. Doctor, you mentioned just before we went on break vertical agriculture, vertical gardening, so to speak. When we look at our environment, even here in the United States, here in Columbus, Ohio, as well as all over the world, how can that really tie in with being socially responsible?
Well, one of the things is if you're starting to produce food, then you can actually feed. Part of the produce can be used for feeding your family as well as probably selling it to your neighbors at a cheap price.
Right.
So that way you can have you can do your social justice work. The another one is environmental justice. With all these trees that are being cut down,
Right.
even in the cities,
Yep.
although they say they plant them. When you look at the vertical garden, look at the area of the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
These are the ones which convert carbon dioxide into useful fibers and fruits and all that.
Mm-hmm.
They also give out oxygen. So they are a kind of sink for carbon dioxide. So in a small way, you are doing good to the environment.
Right.
And you can also start small businesses with the vertical garden, not as a full-time job, but as a part-time, because the plants and other things grow not because you're there all the time
Right.
and taking care of them,
Right.
but they grow anyway, as long as you water them and do some weeding and all that.
Yeah.
So in many ways, the urban agriculture opens a way for people to start small businesses or a vehicle to have some additional income.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you certain examples. If you start to grow some herbs and other high-priced vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
for example, the cherry tomatoes,
Okay.
in the greens, arugula, and few other things, and the herbs, which are, if you grow them fresh, the restaurants are willing to buy it from you.
Okay.
So you would be able to gain, have enough for your family to use,
Right.
but also to make some more money. So I would suggest that if you can do a vertical garden and grow herbs or some of these cherry tomatoes, peppers, and things like that, which can grow in a 1-gallon jug, then you have more income, additional income. Another area which I have not tried, but I have that in my mind, which I don't know when it would become practical,
Right.
is to grow some flowers.
Okay.
So if you say this is native, this is grown in Columbus, you are adding some value to this, because people might say, why not we buy flowers that are grown in the city?
In the city. Okay.
Now, where is the market for it? Well, of course, Mother's Day and all those other, every day people buy flowers.
Right.
And if they say this is grown in containers in Columbus for those families
Right.
which are immigrants or refugees and so on,
Right.
people might, those products have a value added to them.
I agree, because I think one of the trends that we have noticed and is going on consistently is where, whether it's especially now it happening a lot in the vegetables, when you can say it's locally grown, just that labeling that says it's locally grown kind of gives it some either added value or draws additional attention to it.
Sure.
And the other aspect of what you're talking about, which really resounds with my audience, with my viewers, is the idea of it being socially responsible. Because here we are in an urban setting where all you have around you sometimes is just soil that can really not be used for anything else because it's full of debris and so on and so forth. And so if you can, whether it's your fence, whether it's a milk container, unused milk container, all these things that you can really upcycle, like you talked about, to really begin to use it for other purposes. So if we transport this technology to places like India, Africa, and so on and so forth, how useful is it?
It would be useful because the very fact that they are growing, I mean, the population is growing, and we are taxing the soil very much by using chemicals to increase the productivity. So instead of that, why don't you use safe manure or safe chemicals to grow vegetables and so on? That way you don't give them chemical added food, pesticides and all those things which are bad for our health to begin with. Right. I won't call it this is purely organic because there are so many hoops through which we have to go through in order to be certified as organic.
Right.
But at the same time we can say this is the soil we have used and this is the way we grew, and so we can say that this is food. So this food is safe. So the food safety consideration is almost solved in this case, for at least for in a smaller scale. The other one, which is important, is that the food that we consume, say vegetables, most of it comes from faraway places.
Right.
California, for example, and they travel, according to the Department of Defense, which did a research, that every food molecule that we consume travels about 1,500 miles.
Wow.
So consider the amount of fuel that we have used, and consider the amount of pollution we generated. Whereas if it's locally grown, I would say you can, if you have a bicycle to drive
right.
to the store, you're not polluting anything, you're not using any excess fuel.
Okay.
So I would say we are solving at least partially food safety issues, food security issues, because if anything happens to the food, we hear about some of the food that we eat is not safe because some poison or some contamination has entered. The recall is always there.
Right.
So these are some of the responsible things that we can introduce in food production.
Amazing, and I really appreciate this information, and really as we wrap up, what can you tell my viewers out there in really simple terms what they can do to get started or be a part of this?
Well, I would say you start small. Whatever land, fence or roof you have, especially if it's a flat roof, you can start small, gain some experience, and then expand it so that you can even expand it to become a small business.
Amazing. So if you're hearing us for the first time, if you're joining watching this program for the first time, again, this is incredible information. I will advise you to visit technologyforthepoor.com. Once again, it's technologyforthepoor.com, where you will find additional information about starting a gardening in your backyard, a vertical gardening in your backyard. A lot of information has been shared today. Dr. Ebenezer, once again, thank you so much for being with us today, and we appreciate the information you have shared with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're always. And I'm sure we will have you on later days to discuss some of the other things that you're into, because really you touch quite a number of things. So viewers, once again, this has been StartUp and your host, Eugene Oseboating. Thanks for watching. You have a great day.